Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a video that I've been promising you that I would film, and that is a recommendations video for presidential biographies for the presidential challenge, reading challenge that I've been working on for many a long year now. You can see behind me is my Christmas tree, undecorated as of yet, but we did go out and pick our Christmas tree and cut it down yesterday, and it's here in the house warming up, and eventually, I'll decorate it, but I just thought it would make a nice background for this video and for our conversation. So today I'm going to go through recommendations that I have for the first 5 presidents. Because I've been reading my presidential biographies in chronological order, I figured I would give my recommendations in the same way, and I will tell you what I read and whether or not I recommend it or not. And there are a few titles in here as well that are ancillary books that I read at the time that I think are interesting and informative, and you may want to slot those in as well. So let's get started. The first book that I ever read for this presidential reading challenge was Washington, A Life by Chernow. This book was originally published in 2010, and I read it in 2012. I finished it in September of 2012. It was a brand new book when I got it, and you can see that the binding broke. This took me a while to read, so it definitely went through some hard times. Let me see if I can figure out how many pages of text. So there's 822 pages of text, and you can see that the print is fairly small, but it is very thorough, and I did enjoy this biography. I think that this is a very traditional presidential biography. If you have sort of an idea in mind of what type of a book a presidential biography is, I think that this one definitely is that. But I think Chernow is an excellent writer, and so while this is really in depth with a lot of minutia, a lot of really incredibly thorough detail about Washington's life, Chernow is able to really make this an interesting story. And I learned a lot from this. I mean, everybody has, the basic facts of Washington's life down that you learn in school. We've all been taught about, his heroism and his, he gives up being president after serving 2 terms. He doesn't want to create sort of a monarchy in the United States and all that sort of things. But this goes into Washington the person, and I've said this before, and I continue to harp on it, is that I'm really interested in the presidents as people and how they respond to different events in their lives, and I think Chernow does an excellent job of that. So yes, I would recommend this. Now, I'm not going to give star ratings or anything like this, because back in the time period that I was reading these, when I first started reading these in 2012, I did not give star ratings, so I don't have any star rating to give you for them. So we're just gonna go with whether I liked it or not. So then the second president, of course, is John Adams, and this is one of my very favorite biographies that I've ever read for this challenge, and this is John Adams by David McCullough. David McCullough is a master of writing history nonfiction. I think he tells a wonderful story. He is really accessible. He makes people come to life on the page, and this was no exception. I don't know that I could rank my favorite John McCullough books. I mean, David McCullough books. I've read quite a few of his at this point, and I just really enjoy his authorial voice. John Adams' relationship with his wife, Abigail, was super compelling and really well laid out in this book. This was first published in 2001, and it is, let's see if we can get to how many pages of text. There's an awful lot of notes in this one. This one is only about 650 pages of text, and there are photos in here as well. And the print itself is not quite as teeny tiny as in the Washington biography. So it is a little bit more readable as far as just physically the book itself. I will say it does have deckled edges in this particular hardcover edition. So if you don't like deckled edges, just be aware and get yourself a copy that doesn't have that, because I'm sure the paperback version does not. And this has been out long enough, so the paperback version is widely available. But very good. I would definitely recommend this. I recommend any work of history nonfiction that David McCullough has written. I think he's really, truly excellent. So then in between those books, I did pick up and read a book that from the library that I do not have a copy of. Oh, I should go back and say I finished this book about John Adams on the 1st of November in 2012. And so then I read Founding Brothers, The Revolutionary Generation by Joseph Ellis. Like I said, I borrowed that one from the library. I finished it on the 10th of November. So I was probably reading it at the same time that I was reading the biography, if I had to guess. And this was a study of the founding fathers. So it was John Adams, Aaron Burr. I've got notes here, so I'm going to refer to them. Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and George Washington. And Joseph Ellis, who is, again, a very well-known writer of American history, particularly presidential history. Ellis is arguing that the personal character of these men was what made the beginning of the United States happen and made it work. It wasn't the legal implications. It wasn't the institutional structure that they were setting up. It was these people's personal character and honor and charisma and all of these things that made the Republic work when it first was set up. So, and that character, that personal character was what truly mattered. And that is a really interesting thing to think about when it comes to present day American politics and where we're at with present day American politics and the matter of personal character and how that impacts, the country as a whole. So again, it's one of those books where you read it and it's about history, but it has a lot of insight to give you about present day. President number 3, of course, Thomas Jefferson. And for Thomas Jefferson, I read Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power by John Meacham. This is the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. This was published pretty recently, 2012, and I read it. When did I finish it? I finished it on Christmas Day, 2012. So this is a fairly new biography. And I will say, sometimes it's hard to find a biography. It's not with the Founding Fathers. There's tons of biographies about them. But I find it interesting to read more recently published biographies of presidents because sometimes there'll be information that's been uncovered in the recent history, and that gets incorporated into what we already know about these presidents who have, been gone for a long time. But this was a very good biography as well. This one is, let's see how many pages of text we have here. I will say I did not like this one as much as I liked the McCullough book about John Adams or the Washington book by Chernow. I think that this one about Jefferson was not quite as strong for me as these other ones. This was about 500 pages of text. 505 pages of text. So it's a little bit shorter and similar in the writing, the font and stuff in the hardcover as the David McCullough, I think. I think this one was just perhaps a wee bit drier than the first 2 biographies that I read. But Thomas Jefferson, really fascinating person, really interesting to read about, full of contradictions, as we know, considering his attitude towards, equality and liberty and all these things. But the fact that he was a slave owner and his attitude towards his slaves and all that sort of thing. So, this one I learned a lot from. Again, just so much I did not know. You learn the broad brushstrokes of these folks' lives in school if you're an American. But in order to really understand their personalities, the implications of their actions on the broader picture of American history, I think reading these biographies is really, really important. So I definitely do recommend this. I know there are a lot of books out there, a lot of biographies out there that have been written on Thomas Jefferson. So there are other options as well. This just happened to be the one that I read, and I do think it is a good work of scholarship. There's tons of endnotes and references in the back. So I mean, this is a good piece of writing in terms of biography and knowing that you're reading something that's been well researched and well written. So can recommend that. And then didn't do so well finding a biography that I wanted to read about James Madison. President number 4. This is James Madison by Garry Willis, and this is an edition of the American Presidents biography series. These are very slim biographies of each of the presidents. There's one for every single one of them, and they're written by different historians, and they are very competently written, but they are more of a big picture of the presidents rather than, a delving into like all of the details of the president's life. Like these, give you a little bit of information about the president's younger life and childhood and background, and then mostly focus on the presidency, and then a little tiny bit in the post-presidency years, if there are any for the particular president. So they don't stand out in my mind as fantastic presidential biographies, but they are certainly competently written, and will give you the basic information that you need to know about any president. So when you can't find anything else, and this is what these the American President series are available, like they are worth your time. And you can read them really quickly. So I finished this one on the 6th day of January in 2013. So I finished the Jefferson on Christmas Day, and then I just picked this one up and read it. It's only 164 pages of text, so it didn't take me very long. And so that's the beauty of these ones. And then I read a couple ancillary books there in the middle. In February, I completed 2 different books that I borrowed from the library about First Ladies. So the first one was First Ladies by Margaret Truman, an intimate group portrait of White House wives. And this was written by President Truman's daughter. Margaret Truman is President Truman's daughter, she's a novelist and writes history nonfiction. So yeah, this was really good. I really got a lot out of it. This is a study of Dolly Madison, Florence Harding, Grace Coolidge, Eleanor Roosevelt, Jackie Kennedy, and Nancy Reagan. So it's not just founding father, first ladies, it's first ladies throughout history, but it was a good sort of big picture look at the presidency and how the women in the president's lives influence history and influence politics in America. And then I read Ladies of Liberty, The Women Who Shape Our Nation by Cokie Roberts, who again is a well-known author of this type of history. And this one was really fun. Cokie Roberts is a really fun author, and she makes things super conversational and they're really readable. And this one was Ladies of Liberty is not just first ladies, not just presidents' wives. It was like all of the women who helped shape the founding of our nation. And so, Sacagawea and other important women of the early part of our nation were in this. And they're brief biographical sketches and then vignettes, anecdotes about their lives. And really fun to read, really quick read. Definitely recommend both of those books if you're interested in first ladies and how they influence the presidency and that sort of thing. I think they're really great. And I read both of those from the library, if I didn't say that before. And then last, for president number 5, that's James Monroe. We had a lot of Jameses in the beginning. This is The Last Founding Father, James Monroe and a Nation's Call to Greatness by Harlow, Giles, Unger. Harlow, Giles, Unger also, I believe, writes some books in the presidential American Presidents series, and I think his name will show up multiple times in my list of books that I've read for this project. This particular biography does not stand out in my mind as one that James Monroe in himself does not stand out in my mind as a president, a very interesting president. This book was first published in 2009, and it has about 350 pages of text. So immensely readable in terms of its length. I think the scholarship is well done. I don't think that James Monroe is particularly interesting as a president, especially after you've read, Washington, Adams, Jefferson. You got powerhouse presidents there, really big personality men that, really made big impressions on people. And I just think that both James Madison and James Monroe just don't have that same sort of like staying power in my memory. So I don't have a lot to say about this particular biography. Like I said, this author, Harlow, Giles, Unger, is a well-known presidential historian. So he's written books about several different presidents. Let's see if there's a list in here. There may not be, because they're like published under different publishing houses. But it says that this author is a former distinguished visiting fellow in American history at George Washington's Mount Vernon. He's a veteran journalist, broadcaster, educator, and historian. He's the author of 16 books, including 4 other biographies of America's founding fathers. So yeah, he's written extensively about American presidents, particularly the founding fathers. So you're in good hands with this book, but I just think he didn't have as much to work with James Monroe as, you know, he might have had he written about a different president. So those are the first 5 presidents that I will give you, you know, the list of what I've read and whether or not I recommend for you to read them. Hopefully you find that helpful. I know a lot of people said that they would find this sort of video helpful, so hopefully you did. Please let me know in the comments down below if you think it's helpful or not. I don't want to produce these if people are like, yeah, no, that's not helpful to me. But if it is helpful, I will continue to go through and try to do at least 5 presidents at a time. I hope you're all doing well and finding some great books to read. I will talk to you later.